What is going on, guys? Thank you for joining me today for another edition of the Patriots preview, I guess we can call it. So, this week we're talking about the Patriots. They are going to be playing their bitter divisional rival, the Dolphins, on Sunday Night Football in Foxborough. Super glad that it's this game happening first before the one in Miami, because that's been the first game between the two of them in recent years. So it is very nice that they are going to get this game over with sooner rather than later and maybe get a win. I hope, especially after how last week went. So, anyway, so I just want to go over some key points. And of course, I want to start with the fact that it is throwback week, guys. In case you did not know, the Patriots are wearing their red Patriot throwback uniforms this week, which I didn't even realize it until they started advertising it. I don't remember them announcing which games it was going to be this year the way that they did last year. Maybe I just missed it. I don't know. But that is exciting. They played well when they wore the red last year. I don't know if they really won any games. I know that was kind of a weird thing, but hopefully they'll have different luck this week against the Dolphins since they're much more familiar with them, and you know, we won't have the same issues that they dealt with last week. Oh my gosh, my cat is already being annoying. I apologize in advance, guys. I think you guys know she does this. So and then I want to go over because they just released their latest injury report, and for the most part, it is a little bit concerning for the Patriots offense in particular. Um, so they have listed Trent Brown and City So. They both suffered concussions last week and they did not practice today. Then we also have Mike Onwenu, who has an ankle injury. Devontae Parker and Cole Strange also both have knee injuries. They were limited in practice today. And then Jonathan Jones has an ankle injury, and he did not practice today, that is a big concern along with the offensive line, because we know Jonathan Jones has been great against Tyreek Hill especially. So that is certainly a one injury to watch for. The Dolphins had a few listed on their injury report as well. I haven't seen if they updated it the same way the Patriots just did, but I wanted to talk about the players that I felt stood out on their injury report, because I don't have everybody listed, but there were a few that I felt like definitely stood out. So there's Terran Armstead. He has a back, ankle, and knee injury. Xavier Howard is dealing with a thumb injury. Raheem Mostert is dealing with a knee injury. Jalen Waddle is dealing with an oblique injury, and Connor Williams is dealing with a knee as well. So obviously Xavier Howard is going to be a big one to watch because he's like their best player in the secondary outside of Jalen Ramsey, but he is not playing in this game either. And then of course Jalen Waddle. I mean, that is the number 2 guy after Tyreek Hill. So we'll have to pay attention to that. And then there are others. They have 2 offensive linemen there too, so they're dealing with the uncertainty of protection on Tua as well. So I'm sure that they're probably feeling the exact same way that we are. So definitely a little bit scary. So we'll have to see what is going on, but we'll have to pay attention to that over the next 24 hours. Luckily, because they don't play until Sunday night, they have like a little bit more time to hopefully be able to figure out who's going to play and who can't play. So that at least works in our favor. They did remove Kayshon Boutte and David Andrews from the injury report today. They were both dealing with hamstring injuries, so that's good because at least we have the solid play of David Andrews to look forward to. So cross your fingers, okay? Because you don't want to be going into week 2 against a divisional opponent and go 0-2 to start the season. That's not what we want to do. So I see a bunch of you are in here. Let me see. Chris says, "Yo, what is up?" Yes, Remy is she's away for now. David says, "What is up? How are you?" Beantown Breakdown, what's up, Sarah? The interior offensive line injuries scare me. That could definitely be a problem. Yes, for sure. Jeff Jr. says the Dolphins are going to win. Weren't you here like last week and said the Eagles were going to win? What is going on here? Cha Boy says Sarah got fancy for us. I see you with the makeup. Yeah, I felt a little I don't know. I felt like getting some makeup on today. He says he is at work, but here to support my go. Always appreciate you, Cha Boy. Thank you so much. So let's get straight into the Dolphins' performance last week against the Chargers. It was very up and down. I don't think we need to go over exactly what the Patriots did against the Eagles. I feel like we've kind of beaten that down as much as we possibly could, but there were some certain things that I looked at when going over the Dolphins game, because for the most part, everyone is just talking about the fact that Tua threw for 466 yards, and they were like, wow, he's so great. Oh my gosh, Tua. And I think he's even been answering questions this week, being like 466, 466. And I'm like, okay, I support you, Tua. I feel like they weren't the greatest to you since the start of your career, but you need to calm down. Okay. So, they definitely struggled against the Chargers last week. They were on the road, so they were in LA. As I said, Tua did throw for 466 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the Chargers did not sack him once. So I don't know whether that was, the fault of the Chargers pass rush, or if that was more attributed to a great protection from the Miami offensive line. I don't know, but hopefully, I would assume that the Patriots defense is probably better than the Chargers defense, so I can't imagine that will be too much of an issue. Tyreek Hill, of course, went off. When doesn't he go off? He had 11 receptions for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is just absolutely insane. But the good thing is that they had literally no run game at all, which I think we all knew that because they were in on, allegedly were in on all of their running backs that were available: Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook, and apparently had tried to trade for Jonathan Taylor. So they are trying to bulk up their backfield, but that did not work. So now that they have Raheem Mostert, who was their leading guy last week, and he's dealing with an injury, I'm sure that's going to be even worse this week, which is good for the Patriots. They only totaled 20 carries for 40 yards and a touchdown. So rough. Super rough. Miami's defense also wasn't good against the run. Obviously, they had to defend against Austin Eckler, the main guy over there in LA. The running backs totaled, or the offense totaled, 40 carries for 233 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that is something that we're going to talk about later, that I want to see more of the run game this week, and it feels like this is the week to do that. I mean, if they're coming off of a game where they allowed 233 yards and 3 scores, it feels like this is the week that we need to see the fine duo of Ezekiel Elliott and Ramondre Stevenson. Tua also had some issues with ball security, so it wasn't just the Patriots that were dealing with that. He did have an interception and a fumble. The Miami defense allowed 17 first downs by a running back and only 10 passing. So again, just coupling along with the fact that their defense could not stop the run. And they totaled 103 yards more than LA, but they only won by 2 points. It came down to 36-34. So, you got to pick and choose what was good and what was bad about Miami. Like I said, they were very much focused on Tua's performance, which, obviously the stats tell a story, and he deserves to be praised for that. But there's definitely more to what the Dolphins were doing or not doing than just praising him for the his passing yards. So let's see. Beantown Breakdown says the Dolphins don't really scare me, though. They don't scare me as much when they're coming to Foxborough as opposed to Miami, and I'm sure all of you guys would agree with that. And based off of how they performed last week, I'm not exactly like, chewing my nails, like shaking in my boots. I'm not like super nervous about it, but I feel like there's a lot on the line for this game, just because it would be really tough for the Patriots to start 0-2, especially when a lot of people have already concluded, hiccup, that they're going to go 0-4 to start the season. So that makes me a little bit nervous because I think that this is a game that they could easily win. And last week should have been a game that they could easily win. So I would very much hate if they had a repeat of last week, falling behind early and then just not being able to do enough to get the win. Mr. Anderson says the Chargers defense was very poor, like every year. Yeah, they're definitely another team that seems to focus on the defense, which, we are too. But I'm sorry, the offense, we're not we're not a team that focuses on the offense. A lot of teams are doing that, something kind of like the Chiefs did a couple of years ago. They were just so into bulking up that Patrick Mahomes offense that they were neglecting the defense. Chacha Boy says Mac Jones won me in week 1. We appreciate that. And B-Town Breakdown says, I thought Zeke looked pretty good. What did you think about his Pats debut? I thought so too. It was an interesting mix, I feel like, because I think when he was originally signed, people assumed that he would be more so like the red zone guy, and Mondre would, be the main runner or whatever throughout most of the game, and that if anything, he was going to get more yards as opposed to Elliott getting more scores. But we saw Mondre involved way more in the passing game than in the run game, and Zeke was like the leading rusher. So I'm interested to see how that continues because I feel like that was not expected at all, especially for those people who believed that Ezekiel Elliott is washed, which I think is ridiculous. But I am curious because obviously they are both very capable in the passing game, but Mondre has come such a long way in that area that I really wouldn't be surprised if this trend continues. But some fantasy owners are not going to be too happy about that, but we'll see. So let's move on to the biggest questions coming into this game because there are a few. So one of them, which I think that we kind of already touched on, and we're probably going to touch on this every single week. What is the offensive line going to look like? So when the injury report came out last week and said that Onwenu was not going to be playing and Cole Strange wasn't going to be playing, I think a lot of us were really nervous about that because obviously Onwenu, other than like David Andrews, is a pillar of the offensive line and arguably the best player on the line. And then Cole Strange had a pretty solid rookie season, even though he kind of had, it was up and down. There's high expectations for him this year after he gained weight and just having a year under his belt now. There was a lot of belief that he was going to be a candidate to have one of the biggest second-year jumps on the team. So it was really disappointing. But the offensive line did a phenomenal job, and I think they kind of, I don't know, I think they surprised all of us because it felt like, okay, here we go. This is a repeat of last year. Like the offensive line is going to be a mess and Mac's not going to be able to do anything, but it really wasn't an issue. It certainly wasn't perfect, but they did far better than I think anybody expected, which kind of makes this a little bit less nerve-wracking, I guess. Just because, the hype around the Eagles defense especially made it seem like if they were going to bomb, then it was going to be last week. So I feel like the nerves are a little bit settled. But I mean, of course, I want to see Onwenu and Strange play. I think if we can have the starters on the field, obviously that is the best case scenario. And City So being added to the injury report this week is a little bit scary too, just because he was on the field for basically the entire game last week. So, who's going to play in his place and how are they going to do that? I think is more of the question that I would have. Then we have, after we saw the explosion, the resurgence, whatever you want to call it, of Kendrick Bourne, I want to know, are we going to see him utilized just as much this week as we did last week? So that is something that I think a lot of us wanted to see because we saw it on the field in 2021, exactly why the Patriots signed Kendrick Bourne. And it appeared to be a mistake on San Francisco's part to not retain him. Granted, they have now Brandon Ayuk, but still, last year was tough to watch because not only was the offense struggling, but then you knew that you had a guy like Kendrick Bourne just waiting in the wings. And when he was on the field, he was making plays and he was bringing that energy, the electricity, whatever, that the offense often needed. And because of whatever, I don't know if it's an issue that he had with Belichick or Belichick had with him or Matt Patricia. I feel like it was a Matt Patricia thing just based off of what had happened throughout the summer. He was kept on the sidelines. And now that we have Bill O'Brien, it's clear that he knew exactly how to use Kendrick Bourne. And he got 2 touchdowns this year, as opposed to the entire season last year, he got just 1. So I would love to see KB used just as much as he was last week. And hopefully that continues throughout the year. He was kind of like the wide receiver 1B in 2021, if you want to say, as opposed to Jacoby Myers, who was wide receiver 1A. He did have, I think he has less yards than Jacoby in 2021, but more touchdowns. Obviously, that was a thing for Myers until last year. And so we know that he is more than capable. And I think that he's one of the more comfortable people in the offense, even though there's all these changes with Bill O'Brien. I just want to see that connection between him and Mac again, because obviously it's working and he was able to score twice. So, I don't know. He had some bad drops at the beginning, but I would attribute that maybe to a little bit more of about the rain, or maybe even like a little bit of rust, because it was the first game of the year. Let's see. Chris says, let's start Sunday night by not giving the Finns a 16-point head start like week 1. Yeah, I think that's going to be a big thing. So I expect the defense to be more on, point. I think that they're going to have, it's kind of like an interesting, it's similar. I feel like the way the Dolphins are set up, their offense is very similar to that of the Eagles, because they both have mobile quarterbacks and they both have basically wide receiver 1s in Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith. So luckily, I guess they're doing it back to back. So a lot of that preparation is going to be similar. But yeah, I think they said that they were going to focus on the turnover issue this week. Hopefully they have better weather this time and we won't see another pick 6, because Mac, you're breaking my heart, man. Beantown Breakdown says, Sarah, I think Mac's biggest problem is that he tends to get in his own head sometimes. We've seen what the kid can do if he just relaxes and plays the game. Your thoughts? No, I agree 100%. And I think part of what is going to be the issue in that regard this year is I think he's very well aware of the pressure that he's under, because of how poorly last season went. And then, of course, whatever the alleged drama was behind the scenes with him and Belichick, him and Matt Patricia, him and Joe Judge, and then of course, the allegations. I say allegations because I don't know if it's true, of him contacting Bill O'Brien while he was working at Alabama to kind of like ask for his advice, I guess, on how to deal with Matt Patricia and the offense and whatever. So, he emphasized needing to regain the trust and respect from his teammates and coaches. And I think that he knows that other than that, he needs to have a good outing this year to make sure that he's still there next year, or hopefully to guarantee that he gets his 5th-year option picked up. So I really wouldn't be surprised if that's something that we might like sporadically see throughout the year. I do think that there's been so many players that have spoken highly of him from, on his team, especially. I mean, I wrote an article about Hunter Henry, just like gushing about Mac and how he would go to war with him. And even Darius Slay was heavily complimenting Mac Jones. There was another Eagles player that I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, there's players that are coming to his defense and praising him for how well they felt like he looked in the first week. So I think that can maybe help. But I definitely see, a little bit of a confidence shift in him. I feel like we're seeing a little bit more of that poise and veteran looking Mac that we saw in his rookie season. And I just hope that he can continue to build on that and let all, what they say in the Patriots, like let the outside noise, like ignore the noise. So that is my hope. Chris says the second coming of KB will be unleashed on Sunday. I sure hope so. David said, go Mac Jones. Let's go. Cha-Cha Boy says we need the O-line healthy by Sunday. That's the thing that I think is good, is that they don't have to report their final injury report until a little bit later because they play on Sunday night. So I'm hopeful that maybe we can get at least one of them back, Onwenu or Strange, preferably Onwenu, just because, he's solid. Cha-Cha Boy says our injured O-line held the Eagles' number 1 rated D-line in check, but this is looking to be a close one. So yeah, I think I think that is going to be probably, like I said, it's probably going to be the biggest concern of the entire season until maybe the injuries start to stop. But yeah, I think especially for this first month, it's going to be the biggest concern that everybody is going to be talking about. So hopefully these injuries will not continue to pile up and that we don't have to worry about it as much. Beantown Breakdown says Mac just has to relax and play and he will be fine. Yeah, I think he's definitely in a better situation, and I haven't written about it yet, but I wanted to talk about how I feel Bill O'Brien's impact is like it's ridiculous how beneficial he has been to Mac and to this offense already. I know it's only been one game, but it's such a difference in the energy of the team and of Mac. I think that their relationship has really become kind of like comparable to maybe Josh McDaniels. It just seems like they've really hit it off. There's a mutual respect there. Mac has talked about their communication has been really good. And so I think that has been super helpful for him coming into this season after such a rough, 2022. So the last question that I think is one of the biggest ones is going to be, can the offense take advantage of a weakened Miami secondary? Because that is something that people have been talking about. Obviously, we know that Jalen Ramsey is not going to play, which is good for us because I'm sure he'll be back by the time they play the second time. But as I said, like Xavier Howard is also dealing with an injury, and those are their 2 top cornerbacks. So I am curious to see if we're going to see any other players kind of like have a breakout game similar to that of Kendrick Bourne. And I think that there is a potential to see that. Like I said, I really wouldn't be surprised if we see a resurgence again of Kendrick Bourne this week, especially because he wasn't really used at all last year. And that first game against the Dolphins was so weird. Last year with the what was it, the fumble I don't know, it was just a hot mess. So yeah, I am very curious about this for sure. But let's go on to the key matchups in just a second. Let me see what you guys are saying. Cha-Cha Boy says the Finns are going to dare us to throw, so we'll see how good KB is for us and how much Mac has improved under Bill O'Brien. I agree, and that's why I think that we're also going to probably see some more Hunter Henry, which obviously we saw him utilize last week. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a 2021 version of Hunter Henry again. It would be cool to see Mike Gesicki used a lot as well, but maybe even as a decoy, because the Miami is going to be familiar with how to deal with Gesicki. So Beantown Breakdown says that throw in the back of the end zone to KB was beautiful. We need that calm, cool, and collected Mac, and we'll be fine. Yeah, I think that he's adopted a better mentality this year. He was saying that he was doing the 24-hour rule where it's like, okay, this sucks, we lost, whatever. But after 24 hours, it's like, all right, that was last week, we're moving on to this week. So, yeah, I think he has better support around him this year. So, I'm excited for that for sure. Cha Boy says, "Did you get Sunday ticket? If not, do you want it?" I was thinking because they have like a sale. I think there's like they have like $50 off until the 19th. I was thinking about getting Sunday ticket without YouTube TV because I probably won't use YouTube TV. So I was thinking about it, and I think I'm gonna have to because streams are not gonna cut it, guys. My feed kept cutting out right when the Patriots were going to score, and so I missed like 2 of the touchdowns right as they were about to happen. So I probably do have to get Sunday ticket, unfortunately, which it's like $400. It's just thinking about having to spend $100 a month just so I can watch Patriots games just is not thrilling to me at all. Mr. Anderson says, as long as the Patriots defense can stop Tyreek Hill, then the Pats will have the game in their hands. I like your optimism, and we're gonna get into that. I think that's my first matchup. Let me see. Yeah, let's get into that. Jonathan Jones versus Tyreek Hill. So, since Mr. Anderson talked about Tyreek Hill, I was reading all about Mr. Jonathan Jones this morning, and that is going to be the guy that is going to defend Tyreek Hill. And in their 6 matchups, I think, when Jonathan Jones has covered Tyreek Hill, which I think also includes when he was on the Chiefs, Hill only has 7 catches on 16 targets for 88 yards, which is, I mean, that's bonkers, especially when you think about how he had 215 yards alone last week. And then I was reading this, so I'm just going to read this verbatim. This was from Boston.com. They wrote opposing quarterbacks, which is for the Chiefs and the Dolphins. That includes Mahomes, Tua, Teddy Bridgewater, and Skylar Thompson, whoever that is. I remember he was on the Dolphins. They have completed just 44% of their passes when they were targeting Jonathan Jones. And they were targeting Tyreek Hill. Jonathan Jones was in coverage. Those quarterbacks have a 35.4 rating when targeting Hill, and Jones is in coverage. So again, like, come on. So that's another reason why his ankle injury is a little bit scary, because we're definitely going to need Jones on the field. He has had success. Hill has against the Patriots. So in this article, they talk about in 2017, there was a week 1 game, obviously the Patriots versus the Chiefs, and Hill had 7 passes for 133 yards and a touchdown. But Jonathan Jones was only in for 3 defensive snaps. They also talk about the 2018 game where Tyreek Hill caught 7 passes for 142 yards with 3 touchdowns. But Gilmore and Jason McCourty were on the field covering him 100% of the time. So that, I mean, I'm not trying to speak ill of Stephon Gilmore or Jason McCourty, but that is not Jonathan Jones, which is a huge difference. Mahomes went 0 for 1 when he was targeting Hill, when Jones was covering him. And then when the Patriots played the Dolphins last year, Tyreek Hill caught 8 passes for 94 yards in his first game as a Dolphin in week 1, but Tua was 2 of 4 for 28 yards when Jones was covering him. And so the biggest catch of the day for Hill was when Jack Jones was covering him. So we need to make sure that Jonathan Jones can play this week, because it makes me just a little bit nervous, to be honest, if we're thinking about anyone else covering Tyreek Hill. Obviously, they're going to have a tough day anyway, because, as I said, they have 2 number 1 guys in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And the Patriots are historically good at shutting down their number 1 guy. But when you have another number 1 guy, you don't want to shut down one guy and let the other guy go off. So we're definitely going to need Jonathan Jones to be on the field on Sunday. Hopefully he can practice tomorrow, because he did not practice today. I'd like to believe that they're just being like overly cautious because they do have more time because they play Sunday night. But we'll have to pay attention to that, because I think that would be a huge swing in the Dolphins' favor. And, I mean, obviously they're going to have Gonzo and they're going to have Marcus Jones, but I do think that, Jonathan Jones is the it factor right now for the Patriots secondary. So let's see what you guys are saying. Beantown Breakdown says, I bet the bracket Hill with safety help all night. Yeah. I think it's going to depend, I think, on what ends up happening. I'm just really hoping I just want to see Jonathan Jones on the field. If we're being honest, it would make me feel a lot less nervous about what's going on. Chris says someone donated an ankle to Jonathan Jones. I would do that in a heartbeat. Okay. If that were a thing, but I feel like by the time at this point, I would have donated a lot of body parts to players. So I don't know if I even have an ankle left to donate, if we're being honest. So another key matchup will be the pass rush versus Tua. As I said, the Chargers did not get a single sack on Tua last week. Probably a leading reason why he was able to throw for 466 yards, why he was able to throw 11 times to Tyreek Hill for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Patriots cannot let that happen. I do think that the Patriots obviously have a better and more competent defense to stop a guy like Tyreek Hill. So I think that definitely works in their favor. But we definitely need to bring that energy a bit more. I'm trying to look and see how many sacks that they had on Mr. Jalen Hurts. 3 for 16 yards. But how many quarterback hits did they have? They had 4 quarterback hits. So I think that depends. I mean, the weather is going to be a factor, but they're definitely going to need to probably contain Tua a bit more because he can run all over you just like Jalen Hurts can. And I don't want to see them get beaten down by Tua, Beaten down breakdown. Do they make robotic ankles yet? I feel like they should. I don't know. Prosthetic ankles? I don't know. I feel like it's a prosthetic foot. There's probably not a prosthetic ankle. Sack the Tua. Yes. Or the tuna. Did people call him the tuna? I feel like that's me. And then we also have Bill O'Brien versus Vic Fangio. So this is the return of Bill O'Brien and the start of Fangio with the Dolphins. And that is going to be a big matchup to watch because it's new for both teams, not just who they have on their side, but also on the opposing side. And I think that Bill O'Brien has a lot working in his favor because even though, yes, he's been in the NFL however many years and he's been with the Patriots, but it was over 12 years ago, he hasn't been in the league for a handful of years and he hasn't been on the Patriots and working with these guys for very long. So I think that works. And then, of course, Fangio, there's going to be some kinks that they're going to have to work out early on. Obviously, the defense didn't have a very great showing last week because they did allow 34 points and however many yards on the ground. So that is going to be an interesting test, I think, for both of them. And it's going to be something that we're going to have to get used to because, of course, we're going to match up with the Dolphins twice a year. So hopefully the Patriots can kind of figure that out. Bill O'Brien can figure out how to manipulate this situation in their favor. And I think that he's definitely capable of doing that because this is the Dolphins. You become very familiar with them. And Fangio didn't look too great last week. So I believe in Bill O'Brien. Maybe I'm being too much of an optimist, but I liked what we saw from him last week. So I'm excited. Cha Cha Boy says, off topic there, but how did you get into sports writing? And is it your full-time gig? If you don't mind, I know people who want to do it. Any advice for them? I kind of fell into it on accident. I was looking for something to do during the pandemic. It was like we were all still locked down. It was like the summer or so. And I tweeted out, like, does anybody have any suggestions for me? Like, can anyone point me in the right direction to do something in sports media? Like, I had already done podcasts and I had done live streams with Dear Pats Nation. And so I felt pretty comfortable like doing this even by myself. And so I was kind of looking to see like, hey, is there anyone out there that's going to need a co-host, or is there any opportunities out there for me to have my own stream or my own YouTube show, whatever. And I actually had quite a few people respond to me saying, hey, I would really like you to write for my website because I really enjoy your Patriots tweets and the things that you have to say. And so that really caught me off guard because I was like, you like my tweets? Like, I don't know how that equates to writing a full-blown article, but I they wanted to get like a an example piece from me. So I wrote that and I was like, okay, it wasn't as difficult because I never thought about writing before. I always enjoyed writing, but I never thought about pursuing that. So I ended up covering the 2020 season and did I take 2021 off? I might have taken 2021 off. And then I got back into it last year when I joined Fansided in the summer. So I've been doing that, and then I became a site expert at Musket Fire, which is the Patriots site. And so I've been doing that ever since, and I've been growing. I'm covering I'm writing for other websites like the Seahawks and the Cardinals, and I'm hoping to continue to grow in that way as well. Um, and it's currently my only form of income. Yes. So we get paid by the views per 1,000 views. And so that's my only form of income at this moment. And that's why I'm hoping to grow so that as like a freelancer, basically, as a contractor, it's not always consistent money. But I think if there are people who want to get into it, I would say, maybe either come up with an example piece, kind of just like get your foot wet, like just try. There's so many websites out there that you can send in proposals for, and a lot of them don't pay, but and that's how I started. um but those are good ways to kind of like figure it out and see if you really like it or what you do like, what you don't like, and just get that experience. But there's always places that are looking for writers. Like if you're a Patriots fan and you want to write for Musket Fire, we're looking for writers all the time. So I would just look into it, see what you enjoy. If you want to cover your favorite team, or you don't care, you just want to cover the NFL, just explore your options and see what you like. I guess that's kind of what I did, because I didn't expect to be writing at all. So let's move into, hopefully that was an okay answer for you, Chasha Boy. The players that we want to see more of this week, which I am going to be writing about this as well. So I thought, why not talk about it here? Because I haven't even written it yet. So the main one that I want to see more of is Mike Gesicki, and what better way for us to see a big debut from the tight end than against his former team. So it's easy to say that they have some sort of beef with each other. I don't think that's the case. They didn't release Gesicki. Obviously, they just didn't re-sign him, and I don't know if they were planning on it or they tried to. I'm not sure, but I'm glad that we have Gesicki on our side, and we didn't see a whole lot of him last week. We saw the emergence of Hunter Henry, which was great, but Gesicki was 3 for 3 for 36 yards. So I would like to see him used more in this game. Like I said earlier, even if he's just lined up and they don't actually, I guess, throw to him. I don't know, but I there is that concern of Miami being familiar with him because they did work with him for so many years, so they're going to kind of know how to stop him. But I would like to see him used more, because I was really excited about when they signed him, and I felt like he has a lot of potential, especially in the red zone. So if Hunter Henry is shut down, or I don't know, KB is shut down, that I would like to see Gesicki be involved more, because I want to see what he's all about. Then we also want to see more Ezekiel Elliott and Ramondre Stevenson. And I think that this is the week that we're going to see the explosion of this dynamic wide receiver duo, which arguably, in my opinion, is the best, or one of the best in the entire league. So Elliott has 7 carries for 39 yards. He also went 5 of 7 for 14 yards. And then we had Mondre with 12 carries for 25 yards, and he went 6 of 6 for 64 yards in the passing game. So since the Dolphins allowed 233 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground last week, I am assuming that we are going to see a lot of the run game against the Dolphins, and I am here for it. I'm very excited. I want to see this because I do think that Ezekiel Elliott is like such a good fit for the Patriots, and I wasn't even that big of a fan of his coming in, and I'm not saying I'm like a super big fan now, but I just really appreciate his attitude and that he's not being a diva because, that was something that people thought he would be too, especially coming in to a team that already had an established number one guy, and that wasn't going to change. So I think that we should see more of it. I'm assuming we might see more of both of them on the ground as opposed to in the air, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see um Mondre again more involved in the passing game because you can kind of trick their defense into thinking, especially having them both line up. So I'm excited. I think that we're going to get an explosive run game this week, and it's going to be really fun to watch. And the last couple players that I want to see more of this week is Pop Douglas and Juju Smith-Schuster. I did put out an article today about Juju Smith-Schuster, which I think, it's just based off what people are saying, and it's just absolutely insane. If you ask me, that people are back on the wagon of criticizing Bill Belichick for signing Juju over Jacoby Myers because we didn't see a whole lot from him last week. We only saw him go 4 of 7 for 33 yards. And, his knee injury has been such a topic of conversation over the last couple weeks, basically since Albert Breer said that his knee was like within inches of exploding, basically. And so that's been like this big thing about maybe that's why he wasn't used that much. And then I don't even know who started it, but I think the first time I saw it, I think it was Andrew Callahan, who works for the Boston Herald. And I believe he put out an article claiming that sources with the Patriots, or at least knowledge of the situation, they were claiming basically that Juju wasn't their number one guy and that um he was like their fifth best or something, or that they just didn't think that he was going to work well. And I'm like, it's literally been one game. Like, I don't really understand how you can come to that conclusion after one game, especially, we didn't even have Devontae Parker on the field. Kayshon Boutte didn't look very good. And so it's like, should we cut him? Like, I don't really understand that whole idea. Demario Douglas looked great, though. We did see him. He went 4 of 7 for 40 yards. So I would love to see more of him because obviously he exploded over the summer and earned his spot on the roster fairly early. So I just feel it's nice in a way that there's so many options for them to go with on the offense. Whereas last year we were kind of like, okay, what are they gonna do? Like there's nothing they can do. But this year we have some more options. So I'm hopeful that we're going to see more of this. I would like to see some more people on the offense pop off basically this week, because I think that will settle some of the debate about the state of the Patriots offense and I don't know, anyone questioning Bill O'Brien. I guess I think that if they do really well against someone that's very familiar with them, like the Dolphins, then maybe some of that will be settled down a bit. And yeah, especially if it's better weather. Let's hope that it's not going to rain. I don't even know. I haven't looked at Foxborough weather. Let's look at it together. Actually, let's see. It's 101 where I am, so that's really fun. Next week we're going to finally get under 100. Just pray that it stays that way, guys. Let's see. Foxborough. Sunday it says it is going to be sunny and 77. So let's hope that stays, because it says that there's a 60% chance of rain on Saturday and on Monday. So let's hope that they don't have to deal with more rain, because that just makes everything a little bit more difficult. Chris says, unleash the Juju. Cha-Cha Boy says, badass, thank you. You're welcome. Mr. Anderson says, give Juju a chance. It's only been a week. He will get better as the season goes on. I agree 1,000%. Chris's prediction, he says Patriots 30, Fins 27. Throwback Reds are going to lead the Patriots to a win on Sunday Night Football. I hope you are right. When I was going through the predictions of like writers and those in the media, for the most part, it felt more split, but I think that it might actually be like 60-40 in the Dolphins' favor, and that might even be low. It might be 70-30. But I think a lot of that is going to be the hype over Tua last week, which I think people would just fail The problem is people fail to put these types of things into context. And it's like, I'm not saying Tua is not a good quarterback, but you can't be like, oh, he got 466 passing yards. He's definitely going to dominate next week. It's like, okay, but like, how often are we seeing Tyreek Hill get over 200 yards? And how many games have we seen Tua get over 400 yards? Like, you got to put everything into perspective here. But that is the media, especially when it comes to the Patriots. So, I'm not good at predicting, especially when it comes to like scores and stuff like that. So I'm not even going to attempt to do that. But I really hope that we see the Patriots get a win. Especially because I think when in my original predictions, when the schedule first came out and I did some record predictions, I believe I have them winning against the Dolphins in week 2. I had them losing to the Eagles, and I believe I had them beating the Dolphins because I think my record was 12-5, and I had people coming for me, thinking that was way too high, but I felt like the 8-9 records were too low. So this would be a great way to kick that off and to prove that maybe they're not going to go 0-4 in the first month. And also, who do they play in week 3? I don't even know. This is bad. You would think I would know, but I don't remember. I need to like write it down so I know. Oh, they play the Jets. Okay. And then the Cowboys. Wonderful. Okay. Well, those are going to be tricky games, but I do think that they could win those. But let's see. Okay, so Mr. Anderson says, I'm thinking it will be a Pats 24, Miami 2021. 21. I love that. That would be great. So the last thing I will leave you guys with is that I will be live again on Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern to go over the game results, to recap it, to review it, to talk all about it, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I hope you guys will be there to join me so we can talk about it together. I'm going to try to keep doing this all season long, and I really need you guys to be here every week so that I can be motivated to do it all season long. Because if no one is going to be here to watch me, then I'm not going to care about doing it. So, but I really want to get back into talking about the Patriots with you guys and doing it in more of a way that is not just writing, because I think it's fun to be able to talk to you guys and see what you guys have to say and what you think and if we're on the same page at all. You know what I mean? So, unless you guys have any questions, that's all I have for today. And actually, in like a half hour, I'm going to be jumping and going live again, but this time with Pat. And we're going to be talking about all of the craziness that is going on in WWE this week. So if any of you guys are interested in that, I will be here again, probably by 6:15 Eastern. I have to remember to put everything in Eastern. Okay, well, I appreciate you guys joining me today, and I hope to see you guys back here on my YouTube channel on Monday afternoon. But until then, let's go Patriots. Let's see them get a big win over the Dolphins so we can be 1-1, and then we'll have some more fun stuff to talk about on Monday. So I will talk to you guys next week, and thank you guys. So go Pats. Bye.